We're going to start today's video off with a little bit of classic top tier bullshit for you. Now, many of you know that a lot of my gripes with top tier right now is the spotting system. That's actually my number one gripe, and here's a prime example. We have R13M1s on our BIS Sayu up here at 7,000 meters, and I see a couple guys who I know aren't spotted, so I don't know how far away they are. I also have some targets off to my left. They are not a threat to me because I can just flare their missiles at 90 degrees. Look how far away I'm shooting this guy with this R13. Because I'm such high altitude, because I'm such high speed, I can make a launch of that distance. And he had no idea I was there. There was no way he was ever going to know that there was a missile flying at him, simply because by the time I was spotted, guys off to my left spotted me for him. My missile had already burned out. The motor was gone, and as you know, once the motor's gone, the missile indicator goes away. And so if he had magically been able to look to his right, the 2 seconds I would have been spotted there, he wouldn't have even seen the missile. It would have been burned out and the indicator was gone. So from his point of view, even if he was looking right at me, he just spontaneously combusted, and it says I killed him. Absolutely nothing skillful from my end. Even if he saw me in the last second that he would have been able to spot me from that range, there was no way he could defend something that he never knew was there. And it's a big reason why I think top tier is pretty damn skillless anymore, and why I just don't enjoy playing it a whole lot. But here I am, I built my channel on top tier, I gotta sleep in the bed that I made for myself, and so here we have the MiG-21 BIS Sayu, some people call it. I'll just call it the Sayu because that's nice and easy to say. I'm actually quite a MiG-21 BIS enjoyer. I wouldn't say this plane is even anywhere close to the top 5 best planes in top tier, simply because if you pull one turn, all of your speed just goes out the window, and I don't think a plane that does that is necessarily in the conversation for the most competitive top tier. However, it is still pretty damn good, and it is a whole hell of a lot of fun to me. It's just a fun plane. I've always played the BIS, the Russian one. For the most part, I've pretty much only played the Russian one, but I played a lot of games with it. I have 1,000 kills with it, I think. I think it's actually right on 1,000. And so I started playing the BIS Sayu because R60Ms, and well, it is a nice upgrade to have the R60Ms, most notably, in my opinion, having the wider field of view seeker. Of course, R60Ms are all aspect, but if you're going to be actually getting all aspect hits, it's going to be on people that don't see it coming, and well, if people aren't going to see the missile coming, you'll probably end up killing them whether you have all aspects or not. You just might end up killing them a couple seconds sooner with the all aspect. Don't get me wrong, it does provide you additional angles in which you can get shots off, which is really nice, but I just think that the most important upgrade for the R60M is the fact that you can give the missile so much more lead, and it can further emphasize the close range ability and close range pull of that R60 coming off of the rail. Also, the BIS Sayu has that flare pod, countermeasure pod underneath the fuselage. That's not modeled, to the best of my knowledge, as a physical entity on the plane, so you're not getting any kind of extra drag or a performance hit for having that pod on versus the Russian BIS. Makes absolutely no sense, but I haven't tested it myself, so if I'm wrong on that, I apologize. I'm just going off of what other people said, and the fact that the air brake deploys right on through that countermeasure pod on the BIS Sayu, so it seems to not actually be physically modeled, and therefore your performance is going to be the exact same as the Russian MiG-21 BIS, just with R60Ms and a 0.3 battle rating increase. This J7E right here has found himself in a very unfortunate situation. He's in a 1 versus 2 with my MiG-21 BIS and I'm pretty sure a MiG-23 MLD. And if we were in a 1 versus 1, he could absolutely wipe the floor with my BIS. The J7E does everything better than my BIS in a dogfight. I apologize, that's a 23 MF, so either way, just having a second guy in the area allows me to stay on this guy 6 because I know that if he fully commits all of his attention to me, then my teammate's going to kill him, so I can pretty much just sit on him here freely and not have to really worry about being too defensive, because with the both of us here and now a third guy here, there's just no room for him to be offensive at this point. So do not take this fight right here as an example of what it looks like when you're in MiG-21 BIS versus the J7E. This is not what a 1 versus 1 dogfight would go, and as I said, if this was 1 versus 1, there would be absolutely nothing I can do to this guy. I got the landing flaps out here. I'm just pulling, waiting to get my shot in. I know that he's going to be running low on energy. He's got to keep on dodging all of these teammates, and any second now he reverses his turn, just trying to stay out of the way of that 23, but ends up eating my R60. He probably saw it coming. He could have flared that and stayed alive for, what, 5 seconds longer. It didn't really matter. He probably just died because he gave up. which, I mean, you can't really blame him for doing in that situation. But that finishes off the 5-kill game. I have a couple of high kill games in this video just for entertainment purposes, but there are a couple things that I think are pretty interesting we can talk about here. Most notably, that opening clip with R13M1s. Yeah, it was kind of a bullshit kill because there was no way that guy could have defended an incoming missile. He had no idea it was coming, and on top of that, had no way of knowing that it was coming. But he probably wouldn't have been able to defend it anyways, even if he had a way. He probably just wasn't even looking, and therefore was going to eat the R13M. But what I really want to highlight about that opening clip, as well as this one, is these R13Ms just have insane range and are very, very good at gliding and retaining energy even after that motor's burnt out. So even though they only have a burn time akin to something like maybe an AIM-9J, maybe even a little less, they get to very high speeds in that burn time and will have significantly more range than an AIM-9J. Not quite the range of an AIM-9G, I'd say, depending on how well your target's maneuvering. If they're maneuvering really hard, I'd say the AIM-9G has a little bit more potential at long range, but if they're just flying in a straight line, absolutely, the R13M1 can reach just the same range of the AIM-9G. I'd say if the PL5B was modeled correctly and wasn't bugged, it would probably be very similar to the R13M1s. So it's a pretty nice feeling missile. I definitely like having it to complement the 4 R60Ms. I don't really recommend taking 6 R60Ms because the R60s are so incredibly short range. They are very easy to kinetically defeat, even just inside of, 2 kilometers, even 1.5 kilometers away. You can kinetically defeat an R60 without deploying any countermeasures quite handily. So especially when you see a target that probably isn't looking at you, you want to try to get a missile out to him before he actually knows you're there. The R13M is great for that, and it's also a little bit more flare resistant than the R60, which is nice. Now in this game, I've had some guy pinging me on RWR for such a long time. I'm just flying in a straight line, I'm flying high, I'm waiting for him to show himself, and just because I don't want to deal with him until I see him, just to give myself a little bit more of an edge. And unfortunately for me, I don't really know who he is for a really long time. I've been flying away for, I don't know, what has it been, 20 seconds now almost, and I don't see a dot. He's not spotted. I'm looking for a dot or a smoke cloud of missiles, and at this point I see that Vigan back there, and I kind of suspect it's him because now the lock seems to have broken, and he seems like he's lost interest. So I'm going to turn around at this point, and that's when I notice that these missiles coming in, and it turns out it's an F4E, but not only is it one F4E, it's 2 F4Es, and these guys are actually squatted up. I don't know if they were the ones chasing me locked up the entire time. If they were, well, you two are very obnoxious. Go do something else with your lives. I'm not that special of a target. But either way, here we are, 2 versus 1 with some F4Es at altitude. And at these kind of altitudes and the speed I'm at right now, all this guy has to do is hold S, and there's nothing I can do to him. The Beast just bleeds speed, bleeds energy way too quickly at these high altitudes, especially where you're constantly at low IIS. But these Phantoms just don't know that. This F4 takes the head on. I launch that missile with the intention of keeping him from being offensive. Since I have a missile in there, there's no way he's going to be pointing his nose at me to try to get a shot in. If he does, he eats that R60 because he won't present his flares to the R60 because they will be behind him. So yeah, he dodges the missile, but he's nice and slow. High altitude, low IIS, and I get a pretty free gunshot on him. That leaves just one more. It's his buddy, and I'm pretty confident right now I'm going to be able to beat him 1v1 after, well, looking at what he did initially after the merge there. So we're just going to start dogfighting him. I queue up an R60 here to try to reverse him with. I know he's going to overshoot by the way that my Beast just bleeds energy out the ass. He wants nothing to do with it though and starts diving away. Probably the correct move here, but I will say that if he really wanted to, like I said, at these altitudes, at these low IIS speeds, he could honestly just hold S, and I really couldn't do much to him if he did that. But I launched an R13M, he knows it's coming, he dodges it pretty handily. If you know a missile's coming, of course, it's going to be pretty easy to dodge despite the R13's range, but at this point, their team is so slaughtered by now, they've spent way too much time trying to kill me. He has no backup left at this point, and my team's just going to come in and finish him off. Of course, I'm going to loiter around, see if I can't get the kill for myself, but it just doesn't happen. And low kill game, sure, but there was something in that 1 versus 2 that I really just wanted to show you. Hopefully you've got something from that, but if not, well, I have one more 5-kill game, mostly again for entertainment as I talk about the best Sayu. Since this plane bleeds speed as hard as it does, probably the most out of all the top tier jets, though I could be wrong, I like taking it up to altitude. Even though it's got no good radar missiles, it's not very good for BVR by any means because it has no BVR missiles. I do like having a bit of altitude, anywhere from 4 to even 7,000 meters sometimes. That sounds ridiculous, right? But when I get really high, sometimes I stay above the enemy's radar, sometimes they don't see me. It allows me to kind of flank in and come around them from the side. I get some very frequent missile launches like you saw in the opening clips there with the long-range R-13Ms, while they're tunnel visioning on their own radar trying to get their own missiles off, and a lot of times I get free kills that way. But more importantly, I get altitude for defense because the BIS, Sayu, but the Russian BIS as well, bleeds energy so fast. I like having some altitude as backup. For when I make one turn, I'm going to drop, 1,000 meters of altitude, getting my speed back to make sure I can defend incoming missiles. When I'm on low speed or have to make any kind of turn whatsoever, it's nice to be able to dump my nose while doing it so that I can retain a little bit more energy that way and sacrifice some altitude in the process. Now typically I will shoot the R60Ms, it obviously depends on my speed and altitude, but let's just say we're on the deck, both redlining. I'm not going to shoot the R60M anywhere outside of say 2 kilometers in a rear aspect launch, but that F4 was cutting in a turn kind of toward me, so I knew that a 2.4 kilometer launch was plenty within range considering he was beginning to fly toward me. He doesn't quite flare well enough, and I don't know why he just stopped paying attention to that missile, but he ends up eating it. Don't think it's a crit. Yeah, he gets finished off, or I don't think it's a fire, or fatal crit is what I was trying to say. He gets finished off by a teammate, and I see an AIM-9G coming in. It was launched far enough away to where I know I don't have to deploy any countermeasures. I'm just going to fly a little bit defensively here, bleed the missile of its energy, and once I know I am far enough away to be able to re-engage handsomely, I will. But considering that this F4J is just chasing me, I'm going to wait until he gets bored, which he probably will. He really should. Chasing a single guy the entire game isn't necessarily the best option, and once I see that his nose starts going around, I do turn myself around to get myself back in the fight. You can see some of my teammates in the top left corner are starting to come into combat, which is great considering the entire enemy team has been presented in that furball all right there, which is wonderful. If you can get teammates like this MiG-23 and this FG over here to just bait the entire enemy team into one spot, it's pretty damn easy pickings for everybody that's on the outside to come in and start cleaning up and working that furball. That F5E, not sure why he doesn't flare right there. He did some kind of full commit head on. I don't even know if he shot at me, to be honest, but he ends up beating our 60M. And this F4E, definitely within inside my 2 kilometer limit that I like to launch at, but he does have flares, so unfortunately, even without cutting his afterburner, he kills that R60M. However, he's going vertical for some reason on pretty low energy, gives me a pretty free gun kill, and while the GSH-23 is not my favorite gun by any means, it's got pretty low muzzle velocity, it does generally do a pretty good job at one-bursting whatever target you shoot at. And just like that, the enemy team went from a clustered up, compacted furball to just a couple of stragglers left, and we're going to be cleaning them up. F4J over here, he's already flaring, and it looks like he launches a missile right here, so I'm gonna wait. I don't want to launch my R60 and then it immediately start tracking his missile, so I wait for his missile to kind of clear the vicinity of my missile seeker before launching it, and once it's done that, I go ahead and get the kill. The F5, I anticipated like at least trying to jink my nose position a little bit there last second. I don't know if he just didn't see me, but he didn't move, and as a result, I end up looking like I completely potato the shot while I'm anticipating him jinking, so I guess that's my fault, and I end up looking like a potato. Nonetheless, we get a lock on him here with the R13, and bit close range, but I still think maybe that one should have hit him. We go for a keyboard shot, don't quite line it up correctly. We missed that one as well, so we've now missed 2 shots and a missile on this F5. He's definitely burning some of my utility up. I pop some flaps, try to pull as much lead as possible with that R13, lose the Seeker's track last second, get a crit in. Just as I was hyping up the GSH as being a pretty good one-burster, we get a crit, but thankfully blows wing off, and at this point I'm like, okay, maybe I should go check their base. Where's the last guy? And if I just look around a little bit and have some situational awareness, I'd see that he's right behind me. Very easily could have died right there. If he had launched a missile at me, I'd have never seen it coming. But he seems pretty focused in on my teammates, so I'm just going to turn around and R60M him real quick. So That's pretty much been the best Sayu. I love the MiG-21 BIS. It's been one of my original top tier planes that I ended up playing a whole lot of. Like I said, 1,000 kills, which to a lot of people isn't a whole lot of playtime, but for me, that's quite a bit of playtime in a single plane. BIS Sayu, definitely an upgrade over the Russian BIS. You get a 0.3 BR increase, 4 R60Ms, worthwhile trade in my opinion, since they're all top tier anyways, really, let's face it. So until the MLA comes out, this is it for Germany, and I will be uploading all the new content. Until then, I hope I'll see you guys on the next video. See ya.